I'm working a rationals equations review. Number 3 says simplify. The first thing that I'm going to do to simplify would be to factor. The top has a GCF, greatest common factor, of 2x. So if I take out the 2x, I'm going to divide each piece by 2x, and I'd be left with x plus 1 over, on the bottom I've got x squared plus 5x plus 4. Because of the x squared, we can break it down into two parentheses. X times x gives me x squared. In the two blanks, I need to pick two numbers that multiply to give 4, add to give 5, plus 4 plus 1. Then I notice x plus 1 is on top and bottom. Because they're on top and bottom, they eliminate, so the simplified answer would be 2x over x plus 4. We need to exclude the denominator, so x plus 4 cannot be equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 4. X cannot be negative 4. So this is my answer, as long as x is not negative 4. All right, this is a division problem. X plus 2 times x minus 2 over x times x minus 2 divided by x plus 6 times x plus 2 over x plus 6. The first thing you want to do with a division problem is switch it to a multiply problem. So when you switch it to a multiply problem, you keep your first fraction. And then you flip the second fraction, or take the reciprocal. So this would be x plus 6 on top, x plus 6 times x plus 2. All right, from here there's a few shortcuts, but I'm just going to show all of my work. We're going to multiply the top straight across, the bottom straight across. So that would be x plus 2, x minus 2, x plus 6 all on top. On bottom we've got x, x minus 2, x plus 6, and x plus 2. All right, we are going to cross out anything on top and bottom. So here we've got x minus 2's. Over here we've got x plus 2's, and we've also got x plus 6's. So the answer is 1 over x. We needed to talk about excluded values, and even though there's only an x left on bottom, we want to exclude anything that was ever on bottom. So we've got a few pieces. So we've got x cannot be 0, x minus 2 cannot be 0, x plus 6 cannot be 0, and x plus 2 cannot be 0. All right, so this one's already done, so I can just say x can't be 0. This one's done. Plus 2. X cannot be 2. Minus 6. X cannot be negative 6. Minus 2. X cannot be negative 2. So my answer is 1 over x, as long as x is not 0, 2, 6, or negative 2. Number 5, whereas f of x equals 2x plus 6 over x plus 3 undefined. A function is undefined when the denominator is 0. So it is undefined when x plus 3 equals 0. So minus 3. It is undefined at x equals negative 3. Number 6, 5x squared plus 35x plus 30 over x squared plus 4x plus 3 times x squared minus 1 over 10x plus 20. Before we start, we need a factor. On this top one, there's a GCF of 5, because all three pieces can divide by 5. Down here, there's a GCF of 10, because both of those can divide by 10. So if I divide by 5, I'm left with x squared plus 7x plus 6. I'm going to rewrite x squared plus 4x plus 3. And I'm going to rewrite x squared minus 1. Bottom right, I've got 10 for the GCF. When I divide by 10, I'm left with x plus 2. All right, now I can factor any quadratic, so this top one and bottom one, and then x squared minus 1. So 5, 2 parentheses. We've got x times x. We need to multiply to get 6, add to get 7, plus 6 plus 1. Bottom, 2 parentheses, x times x. We need to multiply to get 3, add to get 4, plus 3 plus 1 times x squared minus 1, 2 parentheses, x times x. We need to multiply to get negative 1, but cancel out to 0 because there's no x. So plus 1 minus 1. Then I'm just going to rewrite 10 parentheses x plus 2. All right, so I'm going to smush everything together and see what we got. So we've got 5, x plus 6, x plus 1, x plus 1, x minus 1 on top, over, I'm going to take the 10 to the very front. 10, x plus 3, x plus 1, x plus 2. All right, so the first thing I notice is that the coefficients can simplify to 1/2. And then we have x plus 1 on top and bottom that cancel out. So the simplified answer would be a 1 on top, but you don't need to write. X plus 6 is left. X plus 1. X minus 1. On bottom, we want to write our coefficient in front, so we've got 2, and then I've got x plus 3 left, and x plus 2. All right, we need to talk about excluded values. So we've obviously got 2, x plus 3, x plus 2, but we don't need to forget the x plus 1. So 2 is not equal to 0, x plus 3 can't be 0, x plus 2 can't be 0, and then don't forget about the one you eliminated, x plus 1 can't be 0. All right, this one doesn't really make sense. It's good to always write the GCF though. And then here, minus 3. X cannot be negative 3, so I'm going to include that in my answer. Minus 2. X cannot be negative 2. I'm going to include that in my answer. Minus 1. X cannot be negative 1. All right, so my answer is x plus 6, x plus 1, x minus 1 over 2, x plus 3, x plus 2, as long as x is not negative 3, negative 2, or negative 1. Number 7, 5 over x plus 1 plus 2 over x. In order to combine, we need to find the least common denominator. In this case, it is x times x plus 1. So this first fraction, I've got 5 over x plus 1. I need the denominator to be x plus 1, so I need to multiply by x. You can't just multiply the bottom, you need to multiply the top as well. Second fraction, I've got 2 over x, but I need it to have x plus 1 on the bottom, so I need to multiply by x plus 1. Can't just multiply the bottom, you have to multiply the top as well. So now, even though the two bottoms are in different orders, we know that they're the same, so I'm going to go ahead and write it. X times x plus 1, and then we'll multiply on top. So 5 times x is 5x, 2 times x is plus 2x, and 2 times 1 is plus 2. We can combine these x's. So we're going to get 7x plus 2 over x times x plus 1. Nothing cancels or factors further, so we're done. We just have to talk about excluded values. So from here, x can't be 0, x plus 1 can't be 0, On this one I need to solve, and I get x can't be negative 1. So this is my answer as long as x is not 0 or negative 1. Number 8, 1 over x plus 1 over x minus 1 equals 3 over x. This is a solving problem, and I know that because of the equal sign. And so we need to find the least common denominator and then multiply by it. So here we've got x's here, and we've got an x minus 1 here. So to find the least common denominator, you write down all the bottoms, but you don't have to write the repeat. All right, so when we are solving, we're going to take this whole thing. So I'm going to rewrite it and multiply by the least common denominator on the top. So I'm going to multiply everything by x times x minus 1. So that first one is just times 1, so it's going to be x times x minus 1 over x. Second one, we're just multiplying by 1 again, so same thing, x times x minus 1. This time it's over x minus 1. And then we're multiplying by 3. Equals 3x times x minus 1 all over x. From here, we're going to cancel out anything that's in the numerator and denominator. So we've got x over x minus 1 over x minus 1, and x over x. So we've got x minus 1 plus x equals 3 parentheses x minus 1. Now we solve for x. I'm going to go pretty quick because this is pretty simple. All right, I got x equals 2. We do need to check our answer to make sure that it works, so we'll plug in x equals 2 into all of the x's on the original. So here, here, and here, just to make sure. So off to the side, I'm going to say check. I'm going to have 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 minus 1 equals, with a question mark because we're checking, 3 over 2. So I've got 1/2 plus 1 over 1 equals, with a question mark, 3 over 2. We need to have them all have base 2, so we got to change this one right here to base 2. 1 over 2 plus 2 over 2 equals, with a question mark, 3 over 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, and it checks out. So our answer is x equals 2. If this didn't work, this would be extraneous. Number 9, negative 8x over x squared minus 3x minus 4 over x minus 3. We're subtracting. We need to find the least common denominator, but I notice here we have a GCF of x. Okay, so before we start, it's going to be easier if we just go ahead and take care of that now. So I have negative 8x over, if I take out the x, I'm left with x minus 3 minus x minus 3 on this side does not factor, so we're just going to rewrite 4 over x minus 3. Now the least common denominator is much easier to see. We've got x and x minus 3. This first fraction is good. It's got x minus 3. The second fraction has x minus 3, but it needs x. So I need to multiply by x. We can't just multiply the bottom, we also have to multiply by the top. So now we have a common denominator of x times x minus 3. We've got negative 8x from the first step, and then we have a negative 4x from the second step. So when I combine negative 8x minus 4x, I get negative 12x over x times x minus 3. This looks pretty close, but if you notice, we have an x on top and an x on bottom. So the best answer is negative 12 over x minus 3. We do need to talk about excluded values, and so obviously we have x minus 3 on the bottom. So we've got x minus 3 can't be 0, but also we eliminated an x, so we've also got x can't be 0. This first one, when I solve, I add 3, and I get that x cannot be 3. And then there's no work here, we also cannot be 0. So my answer is negative 12 over x minus 3, as long as x is not 3 and x is not 0.